All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to practice. So we're beginning lying down, and just give me a little wave and let me know that you can still hear me. Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. Beginning in our relaxation pose, Shavasana. Now, today we're taking a very gentle approach to our yoga practice. And so if you have any props available, you might like to make use of them. We will be spending a little bit longer in each of the poses. So you might like to bring a bolster in underneath your knees. You might like to bring a blanket in underneath your head. If you don't have any props today, you might like to bend your knees. That could feel more comfortable for your back. But if you feel good lying flat on the floor, legs out straight, arms on the ground alongside you with the palms looking up to the sky, that could be a really nice place to start as well. For this first few minutes of your practice, all you have to do is rest. We're going to let any tension fall out of the forehead, the sides of the neck and the tops of the shoulders. We'll let the belly be free, rising and falling with the breath. The hips soft, thigh bones heavy. Lower the legs sinking down into the floor. And as your body softens and surrenders to gravity, you can begin to notice the movement of your breath. And each breath becomes just a little bit more full than the one before it. And if it's comfortable to you this afternoon, you're breathing in through your nose and out through your nose. I'm going to take a variation on the Viloma breath now. So you want to imagine that your torso is divided into three sections. The lowermost section between your pubic bone and your navel, the middle section between your navel and the center of your breastbone, and the upper section between the center of your breastbone and the center of your throat. So we'll exhale out the breath all of the way now. And then breathe in just to the lowermost third from the pubic bone to the navel. And then from the navel to the breastbone. And then from the breastbone to the throat. And it's a smooth exhale in reverse. The throat empties, the heart softens in, the belly sinks down, and pelvic floor hugs in. Breathing in from the pubic bone to the navel, from the navel to the center of the heart, from the heart center to the throat center, and exhaling in reverse. You'll keep that going with your own rhythm of breath now, breathing into the thirds, pausing between each section. And a nice, long, slow exhale. If you're very comfortable with this, then you might like to divide your torso into quarters. And you can divide that inhalation into 4 sections instead of 3. But we never want to find any strain or forcing in our breath practice. Really that we are just naturally extending the beautiful rhythm and flow of our breath as it is. So if at any time you start to feel strained or forced in your breath in any way, then you just let it go and breathe naturally. And we'll finish this exhalation all of the way out. And let the breath return to its own easy, natural rhythm. Now feeling into that natural rhythm of the breath, feel this next inhalation coming all the way up to the top. And your exhalation is gently going to turn your head to the right. So your right ear comes towards the floor or the ground, your chin comes towards your right shoulder. As you inhale, you'll bring your head back to the center. And as you exhale, you'll let your head turn to the left. Now, if you have anything underneath your head, it could be more comfortable to you to move that aside as you practice this very simple but deeply profound movement in that as you enjoy this movement, as you turn your head from side to side, you're awakening your entire spinal column. So feel that this simple gesture of turning your head with your breath is a gesture of aligning your body with a natural flow of energy. You feel your nervous system beginning to settle, to downregulate. And all of your attention and energy is being turned back to you. You'll take one more to either side, but you'll finish after you next turn your head to the left. And then after you've been to the left side, you can bring your head back to the center. And then from there, start to guide your knees up into your chest and begin to give yourself a hug. Now, if you had a bolster or a cushion underneath your knees, you might like to just move it aside now. And we'll give the legs a little hug in and circle the knees around a little and just give the back a little massage into the floor. And then back the other way. And then we'll let the left foot return to the floor, but keep hugging the right knee in towards the body. And so you're lengthening out all of your low back into the floor. Now keep holding on to your right shin with your left hand and wrap your right arm around the front of your right knee or shin. And then see if you can take hold of your right wrist with your left hand and let your arms go heavy. You might like to move your right knee just a little bit more out to the right so that your inner right thigh is coming down towards your outer right belly. It might be perfectly fine to keep your left knee bent, but you might also like to explore how it feels to extend your left leg out straight. Ideally, you'll be able to get that whole left leg down onto the ground. If it's really starting to lift up in the thigh bone, then maybe it's better for you to have your knee bent just for now. And so here we're just letting the weight of the arms bring the right knee in towards the right armpit. Shoulders and the belly nice and soft. And then we'll finish this exhalation here and we'll begin to bring the left knee up into the left elbow. And then release your right leg from your right elbow, let your right leg return to the ground. Even if you want to have your right knee bent, it might still feel nice for a moment just to straighten your right leg out. And then you could choose to bend the knee again and place the foot on the floor or just leave your right leg out straight. Swap the grip on your wrist around, so take hold of your left wrist with your right hand. And then just let the weight of your arms bring your leg in a little closer towards your body. And then we'll bring the right knee back into the right elbow, so heading back over to the first side, lowering the left foot down onto the floor, and again, your choice of leg straight or knee bent. This time, interlace your fingers around your right shin and bring your right shin a little more to the midline. It's not going to be to the midline, but not out to the right anymore, coming towards your collarbone. Now, you might choose to leave this next part out if you have a sore neck or if you just ate way too many Easter eggs today and it's just not appropriate just yet. But we're going to do some little abdominal curls. So pelvic floor is going to stay switched on. Low belly is hugging in. We'll take a nice deep inhale into that strength of the core. And with an exhale, lift your head and shoulders up and away from the floor, bringing your nose to your knee and your knee to your nose. And then gently relax your head and shoulders back to the floor. We'll do that 2 more times, exhaling to lift the head up and inhaling to lower down. 1 to go. And now leaving your head and shoulders on the floor, extend your right heel up to the ceiling and clasp your hands around the back of your right thigh. Press your thigh bone out into your hands and give your ankle a little roll around. We'll do 3 or 4 circles each way. Back the other way if you haven't already. And then we'll place the hands onto the mat, and with the next exhale, slowly lower the right leg down until it touches the floor. And then as your right leg comes down, you might like to bend the knee again. If you had your left leg bent all that while, bring your left knee in towards your chest and hug your knee in towards your body. Strong pelvic floor, abdominals are hugging in. We'll take a deep inhale into the ribs, and with an exhale, head and shoulders lift up and away from the floor, nose to knee and knee to nose. Relaxing the head and shoulders back down again as you inhale, exhaling to curl up, keeping the pelvic floor hugging in. We've got one more of these to go on this side. And then after this exhale, we'll send the left heel up to the sky and clasp the hands around behind the back of the leg. We'll give the ankle a little roll around. And then back the other way. And then place your hands down onto the mat, and with your next exhale, slowly lower your left leg down until it touches the floor. And then bringing both of your knees in towards your chest and holding onto your kneecaps, join your big toes together. Move your knees apart from one another and then out and away from you, and then back together and in towards your chest. Kind of like an upside down breaststroke kick with your big toes staying stuck together. We'll do one more circle in this direction, and then we'll go back the other way. 2 more rotations in this direction. And then finishing this one and letting your feet lower back down onto the floor. Keep your big toes and knees together, inner ankles touching. Spread your arms out wide to the sides, or if you don't have quite so much room, you could make like cactus shapes in your arms, bend at the elbows. And then let both of your knees fall to the right side and let your head fall to the left. Relaxing your shoulder blades down into the earth. If you want a little bit more, you could bring your knees up closer to your arm. If you want a little less, you could slide your heels a little closer to the front edge of your mat. And then your next inhalation will guide your legs and your gaze back to the center. Your exhalation will take your knees to the left and your head to the right. Feeling into your breath, expanding into your belly and your back. We'll go one more to either side, inhaling to the center, exhaling over to the right, knees to the right, head to the left. Finishing this exhale here and inhaling back to the center and exhaling, knees to the left, head to the right. And then back to the center with the inhale, bringing the knees up into the chest. You might choose to roll over onto your side to press up to sitting, or you might like to swing yourself up to sitting in a seated crossed legs. Feel free to bring something underneath your hips, rolled up blankets, cushions, blocks, anything that helps you to feel that you can sit with your legs crossed a bit more comfortably. And if you've got a spare block, you might like to put it out to the right side, and you can adjust the height of it. We're going to lean the right hand out onto the ground or onto the block, and then send the left arm up to the sky. Coming into a seated side bend here, we'll exhale and curl the heart over towards the right, bringing a nice little bend into the right elbow, but keeping the left sitting bone anchored down into the ground. Now you can adjust the height of your block or the bend in your elbow to make the depth of the side bend feel appropriate to you. Pressing down into your bottom forearm, turning the bottom ribs under, top ribs up and back, and extending over through those top fingertips. And then with an inhale, we'll rise back up and let the left arm relax down. We'll pass the block over or simply walk the left hand a little bit more out to the left, bringing a bend into the left elbow as we take the right arm up to the sky and curling over towards the left. Anchoring down through the right sitting bone, drawing the right shoulder blade onto the back, bottom ribs under, top ribs up and back. And remember your breath. Let's take one more of these to either side, inhaling as you come back up and let your right arm relax down. Perhaps you're passing the block over. We're going to stay for 2 full breaths in either side of this side bend. So you let your own breath rhythm guide you. Once you're in the pose, stay for 2 full breaths, and then you can make your way over onto the second side. When you're finished, you'll let your top arm bring you back up. And just let your hands come to rest onto your legs or into your lap. You might like to close your eyes. Just take a few breaths here in the midline. Feeling your seat anchoring down into the earth. Your heart lifting upwards and outwards in all directions. The crown of your head settled right over the top of the center of your spine. And your breath is moving in the relative stillness of your body. We'll finish this exhalation, gently let the eyes come open. And let's head over onto hands and knees now, finding your way into tabletop pose. Actually, not tabletop pose, I lie. We're going to take the variation where we start off either sitting on the heels or standing up on the knees. So this would be sitting onto the heels, Vajrasana, thunderbolt pose. Standing up on the knees would have us kneeling upright, and you just start with your arms hanging beside you. So whichever one of these feels like it's more appropriate for your body this afternoon. With your next inhalation, you're going to come upright onto your knees and send your arms out in front. And with your exhale, you're going to hug your belly in as you place your hands onto the floor, coming into your tabletop position. Your inhalation sends your heart forward, looking out to the front. And your exhalation rounds your spine up, you're looking back towards your belly. 2 more like that, inhaling to look forward, lifting the sitting bones. Exhaling to look back, rounding the spine up. And 1 more to go, following your own rhythm of breath. And then we'll come back to a neutral spine here and really firm the core in. With an inhale, rise up to taking the arms out in front. Maybe you're sitting back to your heels or simply letting your arms relax down beside you. Same again, inhaling, floating up, arms to shoulder height. Exhaling to place the hands down onto the mat. Inhaling to send the heart forward. And exhaling to round the spine. 2 more cycles of cat-cow with your own rhythm of breath. And after you're finished this next exhalation, and again, you'll stand up onto your knees and bring your arms out in front. And then sit back to the heels or let the arms relax back down beside you. All right, slightly different this time. Arms coming out in front, inhale. Exhale, hands coming down onto the mat. This time we'll push the right heel up towards the ceiling. So here your right knee is bent and your foot flexes as you look forward. As you exhale, you'll bring your knee through and just touch it on the ground as it comes past the midline. Inhaling to take the right heel up to the sky, heart reaching forward. Exhaling to bring the right knee through, hugging the belly like you're trying to kiss your knee. 1 more on the right side, inhale. And exhale, knee to nose. And then the right knee will go back to the floor. And with a firm core, you'll inhale and stand up onto your knees. Perhaps sitting back to your heels or simply relaxing your arms beside you. Second side, inhale, standing to the knees. Exhale, place the hands onto the mat. Left heel to the sky, inhale, heart forward. Knee to the nose, exhale, around the spine. Inhale, heel to the sky. Exhale, knee to the nose. 1 more time. And then left knee down onto the floor. Strong belly as you lift up, inhaling, arms out in front, and exhaling to come back to where you began. We'll come into our child's pose now, so you can place your hands on the floor out in front of you and start to walk your arms forward. Your hips are reaching back towards your heels. You might feel to move your knees a little further apart if that's more comfortable to you. We're going to stay here for a little while, so do make any adjustments that you need to make so that you'll feel comfortable here. See if you can let your heart melt down. You might like to support your forehead with your hands or your block, maybe your ankles or your knees with your blanket or your pillow. You might like to send your arms forward if they're not already and lift up onto your fingertips and walk your arms just a little bit more forward and then lay your arms back down again, reaching your hips back towards your heels. And then from here, we'll slowly begin to rise up onto hands and knees. And we're going to come into a really bent knee downward facing dog. So your hands should be just a little bit forward of your shoulders here, spreading the fingers out. We're going to tuck our toes under. And start to lift your sitting bones up into the air. Start to get that dip in your low back, but then really add your core strength in your pelvic floor. And then begin to press down into your toes to lift your knees up and push your chest back towards your knees and begin to lift your sitting bones higher, and then slowly start to straighten out your legs, slowly as you can, super slow motion. And eventually with this exhale, your heels will start to reach back towards the floor behind you. Now, it's totally fine if you don't want to straighten your legs all the way. You can keep your knees as bent as you need. Perhaps you'll enjoy a little walk on the spot, in place, a little walk by bending one knee and stretching the opposite heel back, and then vice versa. And then from here, we're going to take our knees back down onto the mat and get ready for a low lunge. So you might like to have a blanket across your mat to support your knees as we do these lunges. 2 blocks would be a great advantage if you have them here. Again, if you don't, it's no big deal. But certainly if you've got 2 blocks, I thought I did, then you're going to bring them up to place your hands onto. If you don't have blocks, you'll just put your fingertips on the floor. You've got your right foot forward, right knees bent all of the way. And we're letting the hips move forward and down. Now, it's up to you whether you have your back foot flat or your back foot toes tucked under. See what feels best for your back knee. Hug your belly in, puff your chest up. Maybe you'll lift your gaze a little bit more forward, maybe even up towards the sky. And we'll push down into the floor or to the blocks to begin to straighten the front leg. Begin to send your hips back and lift your front foot toes up off the floor. You might not straighten your front leg all the way. That's okay. Just do your best. And we'll come forward into the lunge again, bending the front knee, lifting the chest up, lifting the gaze up, curling the heart open, shoulder blades pulling together. Nice deep inhale here, exhaling the hips back, straightening the front leg as best you can, lifting the toes up. Heart keeps reaching forward and down. One more time, just like that, sending the heart forward as you inhale, lifting your gaze, looking forward, and exhale as your hips move back. Now we're going to stay in this hamstring release here. So you might find that you want to shimmy your front foot just a tiny bit further forward. If you've got blocks, you might feel that you want to walk them back or just walk your hands back on the mat a little bit. Then maybe you can lift your chest up just a little bit more and send your heart a bit more open, shoulder blades together more. Really hug your core in as you start to guide your heart forward and down. Imagine you're trying to make your chest reach out to touch your ankle rather than your thigh. If you're on blocks, maybe you'll turn them down as you feel that the tension starts to release, but please don't worry if you don't. Two more breaths here. And then we'll finish this exhalation and we'll begin to come forward again. And then we'll make our way back over to the second side. So we'll push down through the blocks or the floor to step the right knee back onto the blanket. And we'll step the left foot forward. All right, coming up onto your fingertips or elevating your hands onto blocks. With your inhale, begin to lift your chest up, look forward, sending your hips forward and down. With your exhale, begin to send your hips back, straighten your front leg, lift your toes up and bow forward over your front leg. We'll take a few cycles like this. You're just moving with your own breath rhythm, your inhalations lifting your heart forward and up. Your exhalations are guiding your heart backwards and down towards your front leg. The inhale bends the front knee, sole of the foot flat to the floor. The exhale straightens the front leg, balancing on the heel, lifting up the toes. We'll take one more. And then we'll stay back in the hamstring release. Perhaps you'll walk your hands back just a little bit. And then lift your chest up, hug your belly in, and bow forward over your front leg. You might like to bring a little bend into your elbows or to lower your blocks down a touch. With every inhale, feel that you're creating more space in the front of the body. And with every exhale, feel that you're bowing in just a little bit deeper. And then from here, we're going to come forward again, bending the front knee, walking the fingertips or stepping the blocks forward. And this time we're going to step forward up to the front of the mat. So you might like to slide your left foot back just a little bit, lift your right knee up and push your right foot up alongside your left foot to stand in a standing forward bend. Now, you might also choose downhill skier here. In fact, let's do downhill skier first. So just lifting your hands up, bring your forearms onto your thighs, hands in prayer position. Your feet are hip width apart and parallel. You want to bring a nice little bend into your knees and reach your hips back behind you and send your heart more forward, opening up your collarbones. Really hug your belly in. And from there, you can begin to slowly straighten out your legs. Maybe you're choosing to keep your knees quite bent this afternoon. Some of you will let your arms hang down. Blocks can be your friends if you find that you don't come quite so far down. But you can let your arms be wherever and however they'd like to be. Sometimes it's nice to hold your opposite elbows. Let your head go. And remember your breath. If you're holding your elbows, just swap your arms around the other way now, opposite arm in front or on top. And then we'll let the arms hang down. And we'll lift up just to halfway, squeezing the shoulder blades together, sending the heart forward, lifting the belly. And with an exhale, fold back down. Now we're going to roll up to standing. So we'll bring a nice deep bend into the knees and really hug in the pelvic floor and the low belly. And slowly unwind the spine, one vertebrae at a time. Your shoulders will curl open. Your head will be the last thing to come up. Your palms will turn to face forward. Spreading your fingers open, lift and spread your toes. Feel the inseams of your legs lifting as you stand in mountain pose now. Feel your core is strong, your shoulders are relaxed. You might like to close your eyes. Remember your breath here. And so long as it feels right, you're breathing in through your nose and out through your nose. Your whole body is breathing in, whole body swelling out as you inhale. And your whole body is breathing out, the muscles hugging onto the bones. One more full breath, just like that. Let's, with an inhale, sweep the arms up and overhead, reaching up to the sky. Bring your palms together and guide your hands down through the midline of your body to your heart center as you exhale. Let's do that again. Arms going outwards and upwards, reaching up. And exhaling, bring the hands down into the heart. We're going to do 3 more circles just like this. Your inhalation sends your arms overhead. And your exhalation brings your hands back to your heart. You'll be done the next time that your hands come back to your heart center. And then meeting together now, exhale out the breath. Let's inhale and sweep the arms up to the sky. But this time we're going to circle the hands back behind the hips and interlace the fingers together behind you. Now, as you do that, you might like to take your feet a little bit wider apart from one another. Perhaps you can slide your thumbs up a little closer to your sacrum, which is that big triangular bone at the base of your spine. And then see if you could bring your elbow points a little bit more towards each other and open up your collarbones just a little bit more. Now from here, lift your chest up, hug your belly in, look up to the sky. And as you exhale with bent knees, start to bow forward and begin to take your belly down to the space between your thighs. And this could be plenty for you, letting your head go. If it feels too strong on your low back, please release your hands, rest your elbows on your legs instead. But if this feels okay to you, then perhaps you can start to take your arms up towards the sky. Your shoulder blades are hugging together. The fronts of your shoulders are opening up. Maybe you could even bring the heels of your hands together and try not to let your elbows lock, even if you keep them just the tiniest little bit bent. Some of you will like to straighten your legs, so feel free to do that if it feels good to you. And then slowly bring your hands back towards your hips. And with bent knees and a strong core, let the back of your head bring you back upright. And then release your hands, and with an inhale, send your arms up to the sky. And with your exhale, bring your hands down through the midline of your body to your heart. As you inhale, send your arms up and overhead, reaching up. And circle your hands back behind you now, and exhale as you interlace your fingers together. Now, it's likely that you've done the same interlace, and that for me means that my right index finger is closer to my hips. I'd like you to see if you can do the opposite interlace of your fingers, where now your left index finger would be closer if it wasn't before. Now, bend into your knees, hug your belly in, puff your chest up, look up, nice deep inhale. As you exhale, begin to bow forward, and that might be enough. Perhaps you're lifting your hands up off your hips, squeezing your shoulder blades together, and beginning to let your arms drift up and overhead, letting your head go. Maybe you could bring the heels of your hands to touch, keeping a little bend into your elbows. And then let the backs of your hands, or the thumbs rather, come back towards the backs of your hips, hug your belly in, and slowly let the back of your head bring you upright. As you get to the top, exhale and release your hands. And then inhale and send your arms up to the sky, palms together overhead. And exhale, hands down through the midline of the body to the heart center. Let's relax the arms down now, exhaling the breath, and we'll turn to face the long side of the mat and take a nice wide stance on the mat. As you step your feet wide apart from one another, bring your hands onto your hips and anchor down through your legs and puff up in your chest. Let's turn the right foot toes so that they turn to face the short side of the mat. And when you look down at your feet, you should see that the heel of your right foot lines up to the arch of your left foot. Now, we want our stance to be long enough that we could bend our right knee into a full square. So my stance is a little bit short because my thigh bone isn't parallel to the floor. So I could go a little bit longer in my stance and bend my knee a little bit more. Now, we never want to compromise our stability in doing that. So if you feel as though you're going to get a little bit too wobbly or your back foot's going to slip out, then you just bring it in a little bit shorter. We're going to practice this pose, triangle pose, with the front leg straight. But again, we want to be careful not to lock the knee. So we're going to push out through the ball of the front foot like when we accelerate in the car. And that's going to bring a little baby bend into the knee. The leg would look to be straight, but you can feel that the knee is quite soft and can bend and straighten quite easily. Now keep that, hug your belly in, puff your chest up, take your arms out wide to shoulder height. Nice deep inhale here, and then reach out and over your right leg and take your right hand down onto your right shin, left arm up to the sky. Now don't push down through your right hand, instead use the strength of your side body to hold you here today. Lengthen out through the underside of your ribs and anchor down through the little toe side of your back foot. Hug your shoulder blades together, head and heart start to lean back, and if it feels okay to you, you can look up along the length of your top arm. One more full breath here in triangle. And then with strong legs, we'll inhale and rise back up, taking the arms out wide to shoulder height, and relax your arms down as you exhale. Rotate your feet to the second side now, turn your left foot toes in, turn your right foot toes out. And then press down through the ball of your right foot, left foot, the other right foot, press down through the little toe side of your right foot. Hug your belly in, puff your chest up. With an inhale, take your arms out wide. As you exhale, reach out over the left leg and take your left hand down onto your left shin, stretch your right arm up to the sky. Pull your shoulder blades together and hug your core in. Perhaps you can lean your heart back a little. Turn your chin up towards your top shoulder. Maybe you can look up along the length of your top arm. Keep pressing down through your feet, hugging in through your core and lengthening the underside of your ribs. And then hugging your belly in with an inhale, slowly rise back up, taking your arms out wide to shoulder height. And as you exhale, relax your arms down. Pivot your feet now so that your toes point to the long side of your mat and your feet balance out so that they're both the same distance away from the edge of your mat. Place your hands onto your hips and hug your core in. Nice deep inhale here. And as you exhale, start to bow forward over your legs. Rest your hands onto your thighs, your calves, or maybe even take your fingertips to the floor. Now, hugging your belly in, begin to lift your chest up and stretch your heart more forward. What you might like to try here is like the widest leg downward dog ever. So you might like to walk your hands out so that they're extending out away from your feet. And place the palms of your hands down and press back through your legs. Your inner thighs rotate back and apart, but your feet anchor down. It's as though your shins want to move towards each other, but your thigh bones want to press outwards and away from one another. And add to that, a lengthening of your tailbone to tuck under and to hug your belly in. Perhaps you could lift your gaze out towards your hands and send your breastbone a little more forward, and then exhale and soften in again. And then we'll start to walk the hands back towards the feet, bringing a bend into the elbows, maybe walking the hands out wide towards the feet. Shoulder blades drawing towards each other. And then we'll begin to walk the hands around towards the right foot, pivoting the feet around towards the short side of the mat. And then place the left knee down onto the floor and step the right foot back. Coming into puppy pose now, walking your knees back just a little, sending your arms more forward, dropping your elbows down. Your forehead coming down onto the floor or on top of your folded arms or your block if the floor's a little too far away. Feeling here that your hips are above your knees, your heart is melting towards the earth. Relaxing your shoulders. Let's press down now through the left arm and pick up just enough to thread the right arm underneath the left arm. So the right arm comes through and towards the left. Your head will turn to the left, your rest kind of down towards your left temple or ear. Not left, your right temple or ear, but your head is looking to the left. And then we'll press down through the left arm and send the right arm forward again, and we'll swap over to the second side. Left arm's coming underneath towards the right. Turning your head to look to the right, resting on the left side of your head. And then pressing down through your right arm to send your left arm forward again. Exhaling as you come into the midline. And with an inhale, we'll come up towards hands and knees. And we're going to set up for pigeon pose now. So if you know that pigeon pose is much better for you in the upside down version, the lying on your back version, then you might choose to do that. And I'll show you that in a moment, just in case you're not too sure about that one. I do think props will be your friend for our pigeon pose this afternoon. So maybe you could make a little cushion or a blanket folded over into a cushion shape, and that will come up to the front right side of your mat. We're going to bring that underneath our right buttock or hip. And so you're kind of sitting in this sort of mermaid-y shape where your right knee is bent towards the front edge of your mat. Your left knee at the moment is bent so that the heel of your left foot is resting down onto the floor. So we've got both legs bent in this kind of pinwheel shape, mermaid shape. Then from here, you can start to choose to either just come forward over your right leg, and it might be that you want to keep your left leg bent to this afternoon. Keep wanting to say tonight, it's getting close. But you might also prefer to rotate so that the front of your left leg comes towards the floor, and that should bring you a deeper sensation of release into your right hip. Some of you will want to adjust the height and placement of the cushion. Some of you will want to bring your right heel more forward or wriggle your hips back a little to get a deeper sensation. If you've got another block or a cushion, you might like to place that underneath your forehead. Now, assuming that this one doesn't feel good for you, you might prefer to come around and lie on your back. So if you need to do that, just swing yourself around, and you would cross your right ankle over your left thigh and hug both of your legs in like this. Your right arm comes in between your thighs and you clasp the front of your left knee or the back of your left thigh. We're going to stay in this pose for a little while, for a couple of minutes. And so do feel free to adjust and make sure that you will feel very comfortable here and that this feels like the best option for you today. We don't want to have any pain or discomfort in our knees. And certainly if you feel it would be better for you to not be in the pose for that duration, that's perfectly fine. Feeling here into any sensation that you're experiencing in your right hip. Checking in with your right knee. Making sure that everything that you feel is located in the hip. Every time you breathe in, you bring in fresh new energy, lots of space. And every time you breathe out, you let go of anything that's holding you back. I'll be here for another 5 or so breaths. But if you need to leave before that, you do what you need to do. And this will be our last breath here on this side. And we'll exhale out the breath all of the way. The next inhalation will slowly begin to bring you up and out of the pose. Some of you might feel to go back to down dog or to hands and knees. For some people, it just feels best to roll over onto the right hip, and you can start to bring the left knee more forward, changing sides in any way that feels natural and right to you. Eventually, we'll end up bringing the left leg around in front. The right leg comes around behind you. If you're using your little cushion or support underneath your left hip, then it will rest underneath your left thigh or buttock. You might choose to keep the right knee bent and fold forward over the left leg that way, or you might choose to rotate your right thigh bone towards the floor. The front of your right thigh towards the floor might be a better way of saying that. Now, as you inhale, lift and lengthen your heart a little bit more forward. And as you exhale, begin to soften in. Of course, the upside down version just has you swap sides. You're crossing your left ankle over your right thigh if you're taking that variation. So here's where you feel how your breath inspires your body to release. You're choosing to breathe in such a way that brings a sensation of spaciousness with an inhalation, a space of release with an exhalation. You might feel into the places in your body that feel most resistant to this shape. And imagine that that is where your breath enters and leaves your body. Your inhalation brings in prana, that's the life force energy that we work with in a yoga practice. Your exhalation releases the energy that you don't need anymore. Finding space as you inhale, and peace as you exhale. 3 more breaths here. We'll finish this exhalation here and we'll slowly begin to make our way back upright. And you can walk out in down dog if that feels like it's best to you, but then we're going to make our way around to lying down. So you might be happy just to swing your right leg around. And we'll have either a block or quite a thick cushion. So if you were using like a little square couch cushion, you might just double it over so that it is a little bit thicker. And we're going to take our block or our cushion or nothing. If you don't have anything, that's okay too. And we're going to place it in between the knees as we come down to rest. And the idea here is that the thickness of the support that you have in between your knees will help to prevent your knees from falling onto one another, and also will mean that you're not so likely to let your knees fall out and away from one another, because then you would drop the little support that you have in between your legs. So it will feel that our feet are pointing straight ahead. That's just something you've kind of got to get a sense for. And then bring your arms down onto the floor beside you, and we're going to do some rolling bridges. So we're going to reverse tilt the pelvis to flatten the lumbar spine into the floor, and push down through the feet to begin to roll the spine up off the floor until you come up to your shoulders. And then you'll gently return your spine to the floor, 1 vertebrae at a time, hugging your belly in. And when the bottom of your spine returns to the floor, feel that little curve returning into your low back. Reverse tilting your pelvis, flattening your low back into the floor and slowly rolling up. And once you reach your shoulders, begin to return your spine to the floor, 1 vertebrae at a time. We'll do 1 more full up and down just like that. Now you might choose to keep moving like this tonight, but this time we'll hold the pose for a few breaths if you feel okay with that. So as your hips lift up now, you'll begin to walk your shoulders a little closer to each other underneath you. And you'll bring your hands to either hold the sides of your mat or to interlace your fingers together. Pressing down through your feet, begin to lift your hips, begin to lift your heart, press your head back into the floor and open your chin up and away from your chest. And pressing down through your arms, lifting your belly. We'll take one more full breath here. And with the exhale, we'll separate the hands and gently return the hips towards the floor. And then take the block out and keep it handy just for the moment, bringing one knee in towards your chest. And then lowering that foot to the floor. And then bringing the other knee into your chest. And then we'll bring the first knee in. And then the second knee as well. Let's take the feet back down onto the floor, take them out to the edges of the mat. We'll do just a few windscreen wipers. You might need to adjust some of the placements of your bits and pieces. Arms out wide to the side, both knees falling to the right with the feet nice and wide apart from one another. This one's different to the one we did in the beginning in that the feet are wider apart on the mat before we had our legs together. So we'll inhale and bring the legs back into the center. And with an exhale, let both knees go to the left as the head goes to the right. One more of these to either side, inhaling to the center and exhaling to the first side. Inhaling to the center and exhaling to the second side. And we'll come back into the midline and move into our last pose tonight, reclining butterfly. We'll start to bring the legs together and bring the bottoms of the feet to touch. Let the knees go out and away from one another. If you've got those two blocks handy, you might like to use them to support your legs. You could use cushions or rolled up towels or anything that you have handy that might work better for you. And so as you find your way now into reclining butterfly pose, see if you can let your whole body just relax. It might be nice to let your arms come up and overhead. Close down your eyes. And feel your breath. Feel your breath like a wave rolling up the front of your body as you inhale. And rolling down the front of your body as you exhale. Now, if this pose is very comfortable to you, then you might like to stay here for a little longer. If you feel like you might like to bring your legs together, then you can do that. You might help your knees together with your hands. You can start to bring your knees up towards your chest and give yourself a hug. And we'll begin now to make our way into our relaxation pose. So that's the same place that we started this evening. And so you might like to have your knees bent. You might like to put a cushion underneath your knees. You might like to cover your body with a towel or a blanket so that you can be comfortable here for this next few minutes. We'll be resting for about 5 or 6 minutes at the end of our practice today. So do what you need to do in order to feel comfortable for that time. And then once you're settled in, take a nice deep inhale. We'll make a noise with the exhale. And we'll do that again, but we'll make it noisier. And now let your body melt into the earth. All of your muscles soften off your bones and all of your bones sink heavy into the mat. Your skin softens. Your scalp releases its hold on your hair. Your whole body lets go. And you can feel now all of the residual tension melting away. Feel as though anything that isn't working for you just drains down into the earth and leaves you spacious for anything that you'd like to welcome in. This is a time of new beginnings. You can think about what you have learned over these past few weeks. Anything that you want to hold on to, anything that you want to let go of, you get to choose. And it's enough to just rest. I'll be quiet now for a couple of minutes, and I'll let you know when it's time to move again. And it will be time to make your way out into your evening. And just for now, it's enough to know that that time is coming. You can begin to wiggle your fingers and your toes and rock your head from side to side. And as you feel ready to, you can start to move and to stretch any ways that you like. And eventually you'll bend up your knees and roll over to your side and make your way up to sitting. Finding yourself now in a comfortable seat, letting your hands rest on your legs or in your lap, and closing down your eyes. And just take this time at the end of your practice to observe all of the effects of practicing yoga today on your body, your mind, and your heart. And thank yourself for coming to the mat. We'll bring our hands together in prayer position, and we'll close our practice with 3 sounds of Om. If you'd like to join me, then please do. And if you'd prefer to just listen, that's always okay. Let's exhale out the breath all of the way. And we'll take a nice deep inhale together. Please bow your head to your heart. Namaste. Thank you everyone for joining me. I will turn your microphones back on in just a moment.